You know how you see a specific moment for a character in a TV show, and that specific moment cements your love for them? Ben 10 for sure has moments like this for its large cast of characters. And with 62 aliens Ben turns into in the Prime continuity, there's sure to be a moment for each alien that you consider your all-time favorite. I thought, as a fun little video idea, I'd share my opinions on what I find to be my personal favorite moments for every alien. The only aliens I won't be discussing are the Ultimates and Fusions, as those are video topics I want to save for another time, and I also won't be going over the reboot as well. This is because I haven't seen it yet, but I do plan to in the future. I know longtime viewers are well aware of this by now, but you would be surprised at how often I still get questions about why I exclude the reboot in my Ben 10 videos. Since going in appearance order or alphabetical is to be expected, I'm just going to talk about every alien in any order I see fit, just to shake things up a little bit. While each alien will have a favorite scene, I'll try to list an honorable mention or two if I feel it's deserved, because some aliens gave me a hard time deciding on my all-time favorite scene for them. It goes to show you how peak Ben 10 is. With all that out of the way, let's see what awesome moments there are to enjoy for the aliens of the Ben 10 universe. Let's start with Ecco just because. Ecco's best scene in my opinion goes to his moment against Argit in Kevin's big score. You may have seen this choice coming given that it's considered one of Ecco's most iconic battles. Not only does the scene debut Wall of Sound, Ecco's most notable named attack, but Ecco clones using his sound waves to transfer Argit's venomous quills back at him is a creative use of powers that for me feels like something you would see in the classic series. I want to give an honorable mention to Above and Beyond, where Ecco defeats Helen. While brief, I just find the scene pretty cool from a story perspective given Ben's role in the episode. Plus we get the appearance of what I low-key find to be the cooler Ecco move, Echo Chamber. Next, let's go over Frankenstrike. So Frankenstrike's moment was a very easy choice for me, being his debut in Be Afraid of the Dark. While his future appearances aren't bad by any means, his debut shows a phenomenal use of his powers, and the choreography for the action is top-notch. This moment where he uses his electromagnetic body to jump off a piece of floating metal right into a strong-ass punch into the spaceship goes way harder than it has any right to. Also, I just want to point out that I never realized until way later than I like to admit that Michael Dorn, who voices Frankenstrike in Classic, also voices Marrow in Saints Row 2. Absolutely goated range. My personal favorite scene for Chromastone is in the episode The Gauntlet. Something about this specific battle always stuck to me as a kid. While Chromastone doesn't do anything necessarily crazy, Ben fighting Cash as an alien is a pretty cool idea that you wouldn't really expect to happen, especially in early Alien Force. I love that Chromastone not only uses his energy absorption as a counterattack, but also as a reflector, showing great versatility for Chromastone as an alien. I also like to give an honorable mention to Absolute Power Part 1, as Chromastone outright canceling Gwen's mana is a power move that I find incredibly sick. Gravitak's best scene in my opinion goes to A Jolt to the Past, which is his first appearance. Ben discovering Gravitak's powers in real time is pretty neat to see, and it helps that Gravitak's abilities are pretty damn cool. Gravity manipulation has the potential for some of the most creative use of powers for any character, and using gravity powers to have missiles fly around your own orbit is pretty awesome. He does this in other scenes like Vilgax Must Croak, which is an honorable mention for me, especially since he also increases his gravity multiple times, showcasing how strong he can truly be. Blox' best moment for me easily goes to Arrested Development. Blox does so much cool shit here that I wish he did more often, like separating his body to escape the clutches of a robot. It makes you wonder if he can sort of fight in multiple spots at once with his different body parts. I also like this small moment where he does a backward spin dash to destroy a robot behind him. He also has this one shot where he wants to be Foxy so bad. Blox tends to focus more on defensive tactics, so seeing him fight with brute strength is a refreshing change of pace. An honorable mention goes to Many Happy Returns, a short but fun scene that showcases cool use of Blox's body-altering abilities and some pretty clean animation. For Arctic-Wana, his best scene for me is technically not one with Ben. That's because his best scene in my opinion is with Ben 23 in the episode Store 23. Seeing Arctic-Wana scale walls and use his ice breath to propel himself off of Tetrax is pretty cool. This scene best exemplifies how strong and agile Arctic-Wana can really be, which sadly both Classic and Omniverse don't do as much as they should have. One example where they actually do a good job showcasing Arctic-Wana's powers is in Ben Again, which is the honorable mention. Arctic-Wana interacting with his ice constructs to help him traverse is so wicked, and it makes me realize that low-key, Arctic-Wana deserves more praise in the fandom than he actually gets, but that's a discussion for another video. There were some aliens that I knew right away what my favorite moment would be when I thought of this video idea. One of those aliens is Goop. Goop's debut in the Gauntlet is definitely my favorite scene for him. Given that it's his first appearance, this episode takes some time to focus on a lot of Goop's qualities, such as how his anti-gravity works. Seeing Goop's body splatter in place due to the UFO is incredibly sick, and I like how Goop pulls a DeviantArt and destroys the Techodon from the inside out via inflation. One part that carries this scene for me as my favorite Goop moment is the animation. While Goop is usually animated incredibly well in a majority of his appearances, his debut highlights it the most, and that makes sense given that it's our first impression of him. My favorite Brainstorm scene easily goes to the Avengers. Brainstorm's intelligence aiding him for some calculated combat is so cool, and we also get a good showcase of Brainstorm scaling walls and being more agile, something we didn't really get too much of in the series. This is the only battle scene Brainstorm gets in Omniverse, and that's such a shame, because if we had more moments like this for Omniverse Brainstorm, I bet you this alien would be a lot more popular than he actually is. Honorable mention to Greetings from Techodon, another scene that showcases Brainstorm's highly advanced calculated thought process, although in this case it's to flex on Gwen and Julie, effortlessly beating them in a game of golf. And we also get this hard-ass line too.
Winning! It's what I do.
My favorite Ripjaws scene is probably obvious if you've seen a few of my videos, including my video dedicated to Ripjaws, and that's the episode They Lurk Below. I never tire of seeing Ripjaws rip the cyber squids to shreds and using his claws and expansive jaw and the really cool animation, and that large off-screen bite straight out of a horror picture goes so fucking hard. I want to shout out Gone Fishing as the honorable mention. While short, his battle underwater against a robot has some pretty cool stuff in it, like pulling the robot into Bash's head unfazed by the way, and swinging the robot around into a rock that same robot threw is very underappreciated. What makes this especially cool is the fact that Ripjaws does all of this underwater, which means he has to have a lot of strength to do that. Like, people find Ripjaws to be like one of Ben's weakest aliens, but all the shit he does underwater shows that he's actually pretty fucking strong. As for Atomics, I already talked about his debut in the episode For a Few Brains More in nearly all of my recent Ben 10 videos, so I'll make this brief. I like seeing him body Albedo, and the use of his move Nuclear Winter is really fucking cool. Seeing Atomics' potential here had me hooked on my first watch, to see how cool this alien can really be, only for him to be very disappointing. If you want to know more about that, check out my Atomics video. I will give an honorable mention to Vampire Strikes Back though. Creating a miniature sun is definitely one of the most creative things an alien has ever done, so I'll give props to Atomics for that. For Clockwork, his best scene in my opinion goes to Vengeance is Mine. Similar to Brainstorm, this is because this moment has a type of utilization for an alien that we only get once. And for Clockwork, that's slowing down time to move at super speed in real time to body one of Vilgax's squid monsters. While this is sadly the only time Clockwork really does something like this in the show, it was still pretty neat to see him do what is essentially a chaos control. Now I'm wishing that Ben used Clockwork against Maltruan in Season 8 to kick the back of his head like Shadow does to Silver in Sonic 06. That would be hilarious. My favorite Gutrot scene is in the episode Weapon 11 Part 2. We don't get nearly as much Gutrot moments as we should have in Omniverse, but seeing Gutrot create a pheromone to attract evil waybads and using this tactic to lure them to the Rooter's base is pretty creative. Visually, Gutrot's powers also look their best here as well. Raph has tons of moments that are great contenders for his best scene, but for me, I would have to go with Above and Beyond where he battles Manny. Besides getting his insanely cool transformation sequence, we also get the first showcase of Raph's signature wrestling moves. My personal favorite being serious butt kicking for name alone, but the suplex is also pretty raw. Seriously, look at how fucking cool this is. Raph's screen time is so good that he gets 2 honorable mentions. Prisoner 775 is missing and Inspector 13, both for the same reason, the incredibly fun dialogue. The only difference is that for Inspector 13, it's Gwen as Raph, which is pretty fun in its own unique way compared to Raph's other appearances. Choosing a favorite moment for Edel was honestly a really low bar, but I do find his brief appearance in Enemy My Frenemy pretty enjoyable. Edel fights off a magical water creature and one-shots it with a ginormous laser that's powerful enough to split this giant mountain in half. Gotta give credit where it's due. My favorite Ghost Freak scene is in the episode What the fuck? What the fuck? Oh hell no, I am not dealing with this shit again. Oh, right, that situation. Time to use a filter with a character I love because I'm corny as hell. My favorite moment for Ghost Freak is in the episode Ghost Freaked Out. As Ghost Freak's final proper appearance in the classic series, they did a pretty good job at making him both badass and vicious. My personal favorite part is when he takes Frightwig's hair and slams her head into the gym floor twice. You can just feel the pain in those slams. We also get some quick reflexes of Ghost Freak going in and out of intangibility, something Omniverse does a little bit more later on. And how could I not mention the Ben's Not Here line? What a sinister and awesome awesome line. That's immediately followed up by a frame of Ghost Freak that looks like me when I finally finished playing 12 Megaman games in a row last week. Fuck Torchman stage by the way. And of course, an honorable mention to Last Laugh. Scaring Zombozo literally to death is great. Not to mention, Ghost Freak's use in this episode works both as foreshadowing to the scare and thematically for an episode centered around Ben's fear. My favorite Buzzshock moment is in Color of Monkey. I really like this scene for how Buzzshock overloads on electricity for a brief time and sounds somewhat psychotic. Something I really wanted to see more of from Buzzshock, given that it would make him stand out compared to the other electric aliens. My favorite scene for Fast Track is in the episode Beginning of the End, which is also his final appearance. Fast Track puts in some work attacking Esotericas before they even get a chance to attack. It's short, but I like how it kinda reminds me of something like the Ancient Light from the Sonic Adventure titles. I want to give an honorable mention to the Eggman Cometh. People shit on Fast Track for taking an L when chasing Animo's missile, but I love the intensity of this scene, and that's enough for me to find his Fast Track moment enjoyable. An alien taking an L doesn't automatically mean the scene should be deemed bad, but that's just my opinion. Some aliens barely had any time to really shine, so picking my favorite moment for them was mostly due to limitation rather than because there was a surplus of awesome scenes to choose from. That doesn't mean their scenes were necessarily nothing burgers, unless you're Chameleon. This poor lizard got done so dirty, and his only real notable appearance is in the Flamekeeper Circle, where he sneaks into Conduit Edward's building. Topic only has 3 scenes, and they're all essentially the same, but I'll go with his debut in Special Delivery, since being able to stop Siphon with the power of a dwarf star is pretty crazy when you think about it. What could Siphon have seen to be so distraught? Oh. Yeah, that checks out. Bullfrag's scenes are actually pretty decent, but sadly lack in quantity. While his debut in the Frogs of War Part 2 does have nice fighting and the iconic flirting scene, that's gonna be the honorable mention. My favorite moment for Bullfrag is in Vreedlemania. Using his tongue to hold something as large as Billion's Tower logo to save people is nothing to scoff at. Molstache's best scene in my opinion is Breakpoint. I like the powers that Molstache has, and it is a little funny seeing Fistrick get his ass beat by a British mole that flies like Tails the Fox. My favorite scene for Nanomech is one that I feel like a lot of people are going to find really weird, and that's the episode The Ultimate Heist. Yes, I know he doesn't really do any action here, and his scene isn't really long either, but I don't know, something about Ben using Nanomech to escape a cell and have a little bit of a silly situation with Blukage and Driba for a bit is honestly kind of charming. I will give an honorable mention to Frogs of War Part 1, as Nanomech actually puts in some work against some incursions. My favorite Blitzwolfer moment is in the episode Catfight. Not because he does anything meaningful, in fact he enters and leaves faster than the flying fish from Aria of Sorrow. But this frame alone is the coolest thing Blitzwolfer has ever done in the series proper. And I wish I was joking. My favorite vampire scene is in the episode End of an Era. We get some great use of his Corruptoras, and seeing him fly in space in Diamond Head armor is kinda cool. Honorable mention to his debut in The Vampire Strikes Back, for being the only episode he's in to showcase Vladat influence, as well as this explosion attack Vampire does straight out of Super Metroid. Then there's Walkatrout, who's a joke alien. With every single one of his appearances besides his debut, they're all incredibly short and all tell the same joke. So I'm really just picking which short Walkatrout joke do I enjoy most. And with that said, I'll go with Fight at the Museum, since Kai's mockery is a little more funny than Ben just suffering as Walkatrout normally. Another joke alien is the alien literally called The Worst. The only real scene that I feel like you could really call his best is in the episode No Honor Among Bros. In this episode, The Worst fights Malice, and instead of defeating him in a traditional way, Malice just beats his ass until he gets tired and passes out. It is a neat way to show off how The Worst is indestructible, so I suppose it counts for something. Spitter is honestly the most insignificant alien in the entire franchise. He only has 2 appearances, Ben 10,000 and Ken 10, which may as well be the same scene. I guess I'll go with Ben 10,000, given that we get to see Spitter be stronger than Forearms for a second, but picking between both Spitter scenes is like debating who's more interesting, Robert or Alva. It's a whole lot of nothing. I'm sorry to the 3 Spitter fans out there who wanted me to be more passionate about the guy, but he has less than 40 seconds of screen time. What did you expect? My personal favorite Alien X scene is a pretty easy choice, that being Universe vs. Tennyson, the only real time we get a good fast-paced battle involving Alien X, and against a Celestial Sapien, the most powerful foe you can put up against Alien X. I love that Ben has a creative solution, by using a Celestial Sapien's flaw with decision-making against them. Seeing Alien X create thousands of clones of himself to form into a black hole is such a spectacle to see. Also, this pose he does at the end of the scene reminds me of Captain Falcon from F-Zero, which is a neat bonus. jokes. My personal favorite scene for Pesky Dust is in the episode The Most Dangerous Game Show, the only time I'll be praising this dogshit episode. Pesky Dust is used at the end of the episode to trap Charles Zenith in a dream where Rook bores him to sleep, constantly going on and on, monotonously about how his people use Ambrosia. Shitty episode aside, that's honestly pretty damn funny. It almost makes me forget how this episode didn't even use Julie at all in an episode about Ben's love life. Almost. Since the classic series aliens have been around the longest, it would make sense that they would have an ample amount of episodes to choose from. For Diamond Head, I have to go with A Change of Face. It may not be a fierce battle, but the creativity and adaptation Diamond Head has to create crystal slides across rooftops is too cool for me not to favor. An honorable mention to Perfect Day, where Diamond Head creates a giant crystal arm to catch a bus, and overall just shows off some pretty wicked mastery of his powers. Another honorable mention to his first appearance in And Then There Were 10. While reflecting a drone laser is cool and all, this deserves honorable mention just for the scene where he splits a falling tree in half with a mountain of crystals on his back. It's my video, I make the rules. My favorite upgrade scene goes to Midnight Madness. Upgrade merging with a helicopter and a flying clock with tentacles back to back is pretty sick. And we also get a really cool moment showcasing Upgrade's regeneration, where he also wants to be Foxy so bad. Honorable mention to Side Effects, where Upgrade merges with a bike to catch a thief. I love the spikes he generates on his wheels. I do this exact same shit in Saints Row 2. That's the second time I reference Saints Row in this video. My favorite Grey Matter scene might be an odd choice to some, but I'm going to go with Race Against Time. It's not the show, but like I said, my video, my rules. In Race Against Time, Grey Matter fucks with some diner equipment to get back at some bullies from school. I love this scene for how it really feels like a Ben 10 scene brought into live action. And Grey Matter also looks incredible. Honorable mention to Be Afraid of the Dark. I love how Grey Matter creates a miniature sun gun, and while it doesn't mean much for the rest of the story, it's still a pretty cool and creative way to incorporate Grey Matter into the episode. Wildvine was one of the hardest aliens for me to decide a favorite scene. Season 3 of Classic has so much fun Wildvine moments, but my favorite by a small margin is Midnight Madness. This episode has some pretty awesome swinging and stretching action, and there's also a moment where seed bombs are revealed to also be useful as knockout gas. There's a few funny gags as well thrown in there for good measure. I also just love malls, so environment-wise, Wildvine being mobile here is pretty awesome to see. First honorable mention goes to Superhero Alien Buddy Adventures, for also providing some fun stretchy action and the cool use of his vine spikes as well. Second honorable mention goes to Ben Wolf. I love when Wildvine digs underground and sprouts up with his fly trap closed. This shit looks like it fucking hurts too. My favorite Heat Blast scene goes to Secrets. The only real cool thing we see besides some awesome firepower is Heat Blast melting the entire street to slow Vilgax down, a tactic I find pretty creative. My main reason this scene is my favorite is because out of any scene in Classic, this is the one I would constantly think about as a kid. As such, I have too much sentiment for it not to be my favorite. Honorable mention to Monster Weather, since Flame Swords in Fire Cyclones is sick as fuck. Another honorable mention to Tourist Trap, for being the first showcase of Heat Blast's gliding, and overall having a lot of fun stuff to do. Cannonbolt gave me a difficult time deciding on a favorite scene, not because there's a bunch I love, but quite the opposite actually. My sister isn't the only one who doesn't care for Cannonbolt, as he never really clicked with me honestly. I don't hate him, but a lot of his scenes felt so samey to me. Now I do enjoy some of his fights enough, such as his debut in The Big Tick. Seeing him destroy the tick from the inside like a pinball is pretty neat, so I would say this one's my favorite. I can think of other scenes that are fine enough, but this is the only one I feel I can really favor. One day maybe I'll go in depth on my indifference to Cannonbolt, but I'll save that for another time. Let's talk about some aliens that do click with me, such as some of my favorite aliens of all time. Ballweevil may have tons of short scenes, but they all have such cool utilization of his powers. My favorite Ballweevil moment goes to the episode The Rooters of All Evil. Absorbing lasers with plasma balls is one thing, but to also have people imprisoned in plasma balls is another. This scene is one of many that I feel is proof that Ballweevil deserves way more credit than he gets. Honorable mention to Arrested Development. Seeing him roll around through the city is pretty fun despite the short duration. Not to mention blowing up two ginormous robots that are as big as buildings is such a crazy feat for an alien of Ballweevil's stature to have. My favorite Upchuck scene goes to Ben versus the -10 Part 2. Yeah, this one is predictable, but come on, eating a sub-energy and blowing up Mount Rushmore? There's a reason this scene is referenced multiple times in Ben 10 media. Armadillo is one of my favorite aliens, but that's mostly from a combination of sentimental reasons and his powers on paper. At the very least, his fight in Special Delivery does showcase some neat stuff, like digging and emerging from another area, and creating cracks in the ground to trap enemies. Accelerate's best scene to me is one of his earliest appearances, as I gotta give it to the Kraken. Running on water, seeing him use his legs in creative ways, cyclones, what's not to enjoy? And I love the detail that him running on water isn't just an instant snap, he has to actually learn in real time, showing a great sense of progression. Honorable mentions to the Unnaturals, where Accelerate goes the fastest we ever see him, and all just to meddle with a baseball game. You can argue that it's pretty nonsensical, but it's also a lot of fun, so who cares? Another honorable mention to Galactic Enforcers. In this episode, we get more focus on Accelerate creating a vortex, and this moment where he runs up a wall to pound 6-6 is really clean. For Lodestar, my favorite scene goes to The Purge. Magnetic abilities are among some of my favorite superpowers of all time, and Lodestar combining his magnetism with a metallic Kevin to use as a projectile is so fucking cool. Honorable mention to Ultimate Agrigor for showcasing some of Lodestar's coolest abilities, one of them being his electromagnetic shield. We also get this one moment where Lodestar swings 2 robot mooks into each other, that shit is insane. And of course, I gotta give an honorable mention to Absolute Power Part 1, where Lodestar just bodies Forever Knights relentlessly. People will see this scene and still underappreciate Lodestar. Crazy work. Swampfire is another alien I had trouble deciding for, cause he has so many badass moments. Although if I had to pick, I'll go with his debut in Ben 10 Returns Part 1. Besides seeing some great use of his fire and plant-based abilities, we also have this awesome moment of Ben learning about Swampfire's regeneration. And just the brute strength Swampfire has is showcased so well here, especially the part where he swings a pole to knock out an entire truck off balance. What a great first impression for an alien. Honorable mention to X equals Ben X plus 2, solely for this aura farming. Another honorable mention to Vengeance of Vilgax Part 2, as I always found Swampfire's use of regeneration and stretching really well done here. Not to mention that blowing up the sewers is honestly pretty funny. And it's also just really cool to see him fight Goop, another Omnitrix alien. How could I mention my favorite aliens without mentioning my all-time favorite alien, Snarrow? My all-time favorite scene for him, if I had to pick, cause all Snarrow moments are peak of course, is Vengeance is Mine. I love how creative Snarrow's fighting is here, like a moment where he pops his head off his body to avoid a punch from Siphon, and seeing him unravel his body will always be so satisfying. The first honorable mention goes to The Return, for having some cool choreography when it comes to all of the action. Not to mention that it's neat to see Ben get used to an alien's anatomy in real time, something we didn't see for new aliens terribly often. And second honorable mention goes to The Secret of Dos Santos. There's some pretty creative use of his powers here, such as using his unraveled body to break Rook and Kai's fall. We really needed more Snarrow in the show, but I'm glad what he has is still some pretty great stuff. My favorite Big Chill moment is in the episode Save the Last Dance. I don't really care if this isn't a proper battle with a villain or anything, this is one of my favorite episodes of all of Ben 10 period. And this is also the episode where Big Chill, has babies. To be more analytical, I love learning about a necrophagian's process to prepare for creating life, such as eating tons of metal and being able to consume lava. If you were hoping for a proper Big Chill battle, then you'll be happy to know that my honorable mention goes to Above and Beyond. In this episode, Big Chill battles Alan and the other plumber's helpers. This is my honorable mention for mainly 2 reasons. Big Chill touches the ground to create a path of ice to attack Alan. I always loved seeing Big Chill use his cryokinetic powers via contact, and I wish we got more of that in the show. There's also this part where Big Chill's ice breath separates into multiple streams of ice, which really goes to show how crazy Big Chill can be, but he sadly never does this again. My favorite Shock Squatch moment goes to Have I Got a Deal for You. Shock Squatch is used in the opening of the episode to fight off Sunder. The animation and emphasis on Shock Squatch's animalistic movements is what really captivates me. We get some good use of his electricity, and one of the best frames of any Ben 10 alien. Holy shit, this is raw as hell. Almost every single fight Kickenhawk has is so fucking cool, but if I'm gonna pick a favorite, I'm going with Bros in Space, simply for this moment.
You are so obnoxious!
My favorite Way Big moment easily goes to Frogs of War Part 2. Not for the Conquest Ray moment, although that is still a pretty damn cool moment. No, for me, it goes to the fight against the female Waybad. This part where Waybig runs across the top of buildings to do a backflip and kick the Waybad through Undertown never ceases to make me pop off. It is so fucking cool! While I don't care a whole lot about Forearms, he does have a lot of good scenes that could potentially be my favorite. But when I think of this scene in Lucky Girl, it's no contest for me. Using a sword in a cemetery on some haunted castle shit is one thing, but this moment where Forearms strikes the living statue in slow motion goes crazy hard. And the fact he breaks the head off of a living statue with the appearance of snapping someone's neck will always be crazy to me. I can't believe this got past censors. Honorable mentions to Kevin 11 and Framed. Kevin 11 is just a pretty good battle between Forearms and a mutated Kevin, especially when Ben's about to time out and has the lock-in of his life. As for Framed, the whole scene is pretty well done, but this part against Diamond Head is too good not to mention. While Ditto is a simple alien on paper, there has still been some pretty fun ways to implement his powers, and with that, my personal favorite scene for him is in the episode, Oh Mother, Where Art Thou? While Ditto isn't effective for fighting pretty boys, seeing fun ways Ditto could potentially fight is kind of cool, such as this maneuver where clones stack on top of each other. There's also this really fun use of his abilities where Ditto makes clones of himself to tether from one part of the train to the other. There's also just a really cute Ditto moment sprinkled throughout as well. Also, this celebratory formation would be a perfect victory pose for Ben in a fighting game. Cough cough, another shameless plug, cough cough. My favorite scene for Humongosaur is Above and Beyond. Wow, I am mentioning that episode a lot. But in my defense, I love how Humongosaur is implemented near the end of the episode. Humongosaur fights off all of the plumber's helpers, and it's not in the usual way where Humongosaur is some generic brute. He chases them like an actual predator, crashing into parts of the ship and having no lines at all, just monstrous screams that really add to the intensity of this scene. My favorite NRG moment is in the episode Absolute Power Part 1. While it's not even 20 seconds long, energy charging up to sprout lava from the ground is really sick, and also just really inconsiderate. I just know Natalie's gonna become a volcano herself and erupt the moment that she sees that her front yard became lava reef zone. My favorite moment for Wildmutt goes to permanent retirement. Wildmutt has a pretty sick fight against Alimax Grandpa Max, especially when he bites his arm and drags him onto the floor. Wildmutt's fights don't tend to stick out too much for me, but I like the extra viciousness that he had in this episode. The honorable mention for Wildmutt is going to be quite an odd one for people, but just hear me out for a second. The episode I'm going to pick is Return to Forever. While criminally brief, I love how agile Wildmutt is when fighting off two Forever Knights at the same time. Shit like this is what we should have had more of for Wildmutt. My favorite scene for Jury Rig is in the episode Mystery Incorporeal. I think the food truck tank is one of the coolest things he's ever created. And honorable mention to Gone Fishin', as upgrading one of the robots with parts of other robots to fight for you is pretty rad. While Jury Rig may be seen as a redundant alien to some, I'm glad he still had some pretty fun moments to enjoy. My favorite moment for Stinkfly goes to Kevin 11. While we don't see much use of his powers besides his flying, seeing Stinkfly soar through New York is tons of fun. We also get some pretty good shots, like Kevin running across the Statue of Liberty, Stinkfly and Kevin in front of a bus, and this one part where Stinkfly and Kevin appear on a big screen behind them. Honorable mention to the Kraken for having one of the most creative uses of Stinkfly's slime, in this case being used to grapple him onto a tree. A perfect combination of both gross and alien. My favorite scene for Water Hazard goes to Hero Time. This is the only time Water Hazard is really used in a pretty interesting way. In this episode, not only do we see him shoot water, but we also learn that he can absorb moisture in the air. Plus the fighting is pretty damn good too. And I know I just said Hero Time is the only time Water Hazard is interesting, I more so mean a unique use of his powers that we never see again, because his debut in Too Hot to Handle is really good and I think it deserves honorable mention. It's got some great animation and great choreography. It's a pretty kick-ass debut. I wasn't too sure what scene would be my favorite for Spider Monkey, but honestly, I might go with Absolute Power Part 2. I really like when Spider Monkey uses his web to swing Ultimate Kevin through the rust bucket. And also like Swamp Fire, something as simple as using a street lamp for brute strength is something I really enjoy. My favorite Astrodactyl moment goes to his debut in While You Were Away. I think Astrodactyl is such an overhated alien. Plasma whips and exploding Stardust rings, like how could you not find that interesting? And thankfully his debut showcases both of those things pretty well. Honorable mention to Frogs of War Part 1, where he uses a trail of Stardust rings to blow up an incursion ship. This scene doesn't last too long, but this is definitely a case of quality over quantity for me. My favorite Eye Guy moment goes to Evil's Encore. I feel like Eye Guy scenes are either short eye puns or too short to really appreciate, and while this one isn't much better, I just like seeing Eye Guy battle with his fire lasers on the road. It's brief, but I find it charming regardless. There is only a few more aliens to talk about for this video, and the first of the final group I want to go over is Terraspin. Terraspin is a pretty interesting alien, but they really don't give him much to do honestly, and this goes for both Ultimate Alien and Omniverse. If I had to pick a favorite scene, I gotta go with Simeon Says. The giant tornado he creates reminds me a lot of the wind spells like Whoosh from Dragon Quest. My favorite jet race scene goes to his first appearance in Everybody Talks About the Weather. I really enjoy the fast-paced chase scene with him and Alan, and the surprise attack with the tail Neuroshock laser is pretty clever. My favorite scene for Amphibian goes to Inspector 13, where Kevin as Amphibian utilizes his intangibility. We also get this really cool shot of his electricity going through multiple Tekadons, and an honorable mention to Special Delivery. It's a really short scene, but I like seeing Amphibian stretch his arms like long wires to electrocute members of the Kraho. My favorite Crash Hopper scene goes to Rad Monster Party. I love how a combination of his jump height and agility is used to ensnare Cthulhu in his own bandages. This is one of the more dynamic and creative Crash Hopper scenes in my opinion. And finally, our last alien to talk about is Feedback. I know many will expect A New Dawn as its best scene in my opinion, and it's a great scene and everything, but that's gonna be one of the honorable mentions. Yes, I know absorbing the Big Bang is fucking crazy, but honestly, it's not my favorite scene for this alien. As for another honorable mention, I want to talk about Showdown Part 1. Sure, Feedback is killed off in this episode, but it's such a heartbreaking scene that I just have to acknowledge it. Plus, earlier in the same episode, he runs on telephone wires, which we clearly should have seen more of. My actual favorite Feedback scene is Showdown Part 2. The return of Feedback is just hype incarnated. Even as someone who doesn't really care much for Feedback, this scene is just too good not to love. My personal favorite part being when Feedback flies up via electricity and runs across Malware's arm. That shit is crazy wicked. I know a scene is phenomenal when I pop off to one of my lesser favorite aliens. It's that good. And that about does it for my favorite scene of each of the Omnitrix aliens. While there's tons of moments I love for all of these aliens, there's a few that stick out against the rest, and I adore each of the scenes I mentioned, some more than others of course. I yapped about my personal favorite scenes for the aliens, but as always, I want to know what you think. Did you agree with my favorite scenes, or are there scenes that you wish I favored instead? Do you like the scenes chosen regardless, or did you think my choices were complete ass? I know I definitely had some hot takes here, so I'm really curious of what you guys think. Also, in general, what are your favorite scenes for some of your favorite aliens? I'm sure I'll see a whole bunch of different responses, given there's such a variety of moments to choose for each alien. Well, mostly. Again, I'm sorry to the 3 Spitter fans out there. I appreciate you guys for stopping by, and as always, happy night hunting.